What is up, guys? It is your boy Nistro here, and today I got you guys a Six Samurai deck profile for January 2018. Now, obviously, the new set, Extreme Force, does actually come out in I don't know. I actually don't know the exact date. I'll leave a little annotation at the bottom of the screen so you can see when the actual release date is. So it's real close. So I'm going to be talking about one or two cards from that set that you can be using in this deck. But for the most part, I'm just gonna go through it. It's a true Draco Six Samurai build. So Six Samurais by themselves, although they are pretty cool, they don't really have the speed by themselves or the consistency by themselves, simply because Gateway is still at 1. You know what I'm saying? If we were in a format where Gateway was at 3, playing pure Six Samurais wouldn't be so bad. But at this point, I feel like this is the more consistent build and works just better in general. So you can bring this to your local tournament, see how you do, and let's just go for it. So first we have our triple Fuma. Right, he's the main engine of the deck. So since we are playing the True Draco build, we are playing Diagram, and Fuma acts off of Diagram. We are playing 2 Kizaru to search off of when you're going for Fuma. Just be careful, because usually you would search your Fuma when special summoning Kizaru, but if you will have the Win True Draco monster on the field, Kizaru applies his effect for any monster you have on your board. So just be careful that he's not on board with the True Draco, Win monster at the same time. So next we play 2 Kizan. You could play 3, but since this is a True Draco build, you won't really need 3. If you do end up drawing into Gateway, you could loop him anyway, and he can't be searched by Kizaru, which might be a reason why you want to play it at 3. But for me, playing it at 2 is pretty nice. He doesn't clog, but at the same time, you see him a decent number of the time. So next we have 1 Hatsume. Now, if you draw her too early, your combos can kind of get ruined a little bit. So you could put her up to 2, but ultimately you can just keep her at 1. She doesn't do enough for you to warrant playing 2, but she's good enough to keep out 1. You play a lot of revival stuff anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. So next we have our one-ofs, Genba, Kageki, and Enishi. And so the reason why you only play 1 of each of these guys is because Shien isn't as big of a deal as it used to be, and 9 times out of 10 you'll still be able to bring out your Shien first turn. So it won't really be that big of a deal, because if you get a Fuma and a Diagram, you're still going to be able to summon out Shien first turn. It's all the matter of how you want to do it. And Kageki, he isn't as necessary now, since we're not really focusing much on Kageki, and on Elder and Kagemusha and Asceticism. And Enishi, he's always good at 1, since you're going to stack up your grave with 6 Samurais real quick with those Fumas. And Genba can get back your banished 6 Samurai monsters, so you're not gonna have a hard time, with banishing cards for Enishi. So next we play our triple Mariamne. She is the win one, and if you pop her by Diagram, you actually do get to search a wind or a non-wind worm type monster, which pretty much is both Masterpiece and the other True King that you play. You play Majesty Maiden. You really don't need to play her, because ultimately your opponent's either going to have a way to get around her, or they're going to have or they're not going to care, because by the time that you bring her out, it's going to be too late. She's really only good if you have one of the True Draco trap cards already set up, and then you can search yourself a Masterpiece, and then you can kind of bait your opponent, or play mind games with your opponent. But for the most part, she isn't really that big of a deal. But yeah, you only play 1 Masterpiece because he's not really the focus of the deck, but he definitely is something that you can use, even if kind of like a trump card as like a last resort or something of the sort. And you play a lot of continuous spells in this deck, so it just works well. Next, we got our hand traps, Ghost Ogres, and the Maxx C. For me, you can, this is, budget, so this is pretty optimal for budget players. But if you're not a budget player, then go all out with Ash Blossoms, because they are definitely better. But if you're not worried about, or if you're worried about a budget, then just go Ghost Ogre. But if you're not, then just go Ash Blossom. So next, we're playing our triple diagram with not 1, not 3, but 2 terraforming. Because you want to see it a lot, but you don't want to see it too much late game. And if terraforming, if you draw terraforming with diagram, terraforming is just going to clog. So if you draw it like after you already use your diagrams, terraforming is just going to clog. And most times, I get it, you can use multiple diagrams in a turn, but ultimately there are going to be times where you really want like something other than diagram. And so like after you use your first one, like terraforming, like this could have been another Six Samurai, this could have been another combo piece, so you'd like, it can sometimes be a disappointment to top terraforming, but diagram's always welcome. Next we have our triple Six Samurai United. It's our draw power. I remember a few games I played, since this deck isn't really too heavy on Six Samurais, sometimes I would just have to take the sacrifice and only tribute it with 1 counter. And it does kind of hurt a bit, because you always want to draw 2 with this card, but ultimately it's going to be either risk getting 1 card only, or end your turn. And so you're just like, what, let me just go for it, see what I get. It could work better in this deck. Like, you can make this deck better so that you always get your Uniteds when you get them. But like, Six Samurais were a deck that was never really made to mix until Fuma came out. So it still has some problems to work out, but ultimately I think this is a pretty solid build. So next we have our 2 smoke signals and our reinforcement. So the reason you don't want to play 3 smoke signal is because smoke signal being at 3 doesn't really do too much for you, because you go through your deck so quickly, and then you're not going to have anything left to go through, because Fuma and Kizaru like search everything for you, so you don't really need to worry about searching them through smoke signal or anything like that too much. Usually, I remember even before Fuma and Kizaru came out, sometimes I would just set a Rhoda and set a smoke signal as like a bait card, and then next turn, if I needed something, that's when I would activate it. Because Six Samurais kind of used to be like a toolbox deck where each Six Samurai had like a different function. And so, if I ever top deck a Rhoda and I I already have all the pieces I need, I would just set it, and then, I'll wait for my opponent to go, see what they're going to do. And then, I would activate it, then search my combo piece next turn, because, based on what my opponent does, based on how they played. Now, obviously, very obviously, if you need a combo piece, just freaking search it. But, if you already have everything that you need, and you don't know what your opponent's playing, or, you don't know how your next turn's going to go, you're waiting to see your top deck, that's when you save these guys for, you set them down, and then you save them for the next turn. So our 2 True Draco spell cards are one-ofs, Heritage, and Disciples. Disciples is really useful because you may go through your Mariamnes quick, so being able to recycle them is always a plus. And Heritage, it's just here because it lets you double summon, but sometimes if you pop one of your True Dracos with Diagram and then search Heritage, you get to draw an extra card. So it can just do well with being a little extra draw power for free, pretty much. And then 1 dojo, 1 gateway. I've seen people play multiple dojos since Fuma came out, since Fuma is very useful. But for me, dojo isn't really that big of a deal. I guess you can argue that, it can still be used as like a tribute bait for the True Dracos, which is definitely a fair argument. But for me, I see little reason to play it at more than 2. And even playing it at 1, I don't see it a lot. but I already know that I don't need to see it that much. But there's one time that I drew a hand of all monsters, so it did hurt pretty much that I didn't have a lot of other ways to out or to like special summon, because my hand ran dry, because although I had 2 Fumas and the freaking Mariamne, and I did all my special summoning, I couldn't do much after that, and so it kind of ran dry. So you can definitely like, if you feel like your deck's gonna run dry of resources real quick, or if you just feel like you need more special summoning power, you can always just go for Dojo, but it's not needed. You don't need more than 2, and I like to stick to 1 because that's what I always played. And then Gateway, the best card of 6 Samurais. You're barely gonna see this, I'm telling you right now, but when you do, I really hope it's with a good hand, so you can just go off and pretty much end your opponent first turn, because if you can get out some of these Link Monster combos, you can pretty much win first turn, or get a board that's so strong first turn. So next we have Moon Mirror Shield and Soul Charge. The reason why you're playing Moon Mirror Shield, it seems like a little bit of a meme, but pretty honestly, it does help a lot, because there are going to be a lot of times where you're not playing a lot of monsters that like have high stats or that can really get over stuff. So playing Moon Mirror Shield in the main deck can definitely help with that. And I just like the card. I've never seen a reason to like take it out, so it just works. And Soul Charge is self-explanatory. Now my last 2 cards are a little bit controversial. Now Backs to the Wall, believe it or not, has actually saved me a few games, but I've never drawn it when I didn't need to. Like, every time I draw it, I always just look at it and I'm like, you know what, I'm really happy that I drew this. So it's a real good card, but really you should honestly just save this for last minute. You can play Double-Edged Sword Technique, you can play all that other stuff, but this is something that I think really takes the cake. And then True Draco Apocalypse is nice, but I'd rather play True Draco's Return. I just don't have a return. But, you know, being able to tribute summon Masterpiece during your opponent's turn was definitely helpful. And then with Return, you'll be able to special summon your True King or True Draco monsters back, so you can make rank 9s and more Link monsters. But unfortunately, I don't have one, so yeah. But, you know, ultimately, you're not focused on the trap cards, because this is like a combo-based deck, so you're more focused on the board that you get first turn, and then you kind of play the game around that. So, yeah. So, starting off the extra deck, we got 2 Shiens and a Trishula for synchros. You really don't need any other synchros in this deck. Like, you really don't need any other synchros. And, like, being somebody who played 6 Samurais for a while, and then I was first playing this deck, like, it felt weird to me, like, not playing too many other synchros, just because I was so used to this deck being, like, a synchro-centric deck. But, you know, times change, and so does the game. So now it's just 2 Shiens and a Trishula, and honestly, you can get away with playing only 1 Shien. You really could. But I just like to have my security in playing 2 Shiens. So, yeah. Now, for Exceed monsters, our rank 4s go to Tornado, Baguska, and Excalibur. Excalibur is just to get over stuff and to OTK pretty easily. You can also play Blade Armor Ninja, but, you know, I just like Excalibur better. Tornado is that back row hate. The real only back row hate you have in the main deck is the True Draco spell cards. If you don't get those quickly, or if you know you're facing a deck where your opponent uses a lot of like continuous stuff, or stuff that can get popped and stop their plays, then Tornado Dragon's always a good card. And Baguska is a first turn like floodgate. If you know your opponent's playing a deck that really relies a lot on monster effects, and you don't have the tools to make a rank 9 first turn, then Baguska can definitely work for you. Now for our rank 9s, we have 1 True King of All Calamities and 1 Phantom Fortress Enter Blafner. And so pretty much how we would make these is usually, if you get a good enough hand, if you can trigger one of your Mariamnes and by destroying a Fuma, you can probably summon out a Trishula first turn. And so because using that Trish, you get rid of a card from your opponent's hand, and then use that Trish and that True True Draco or that Mariamne first turn, and you go into a rank 9. And so you would want to go to Phantom Fortress if you think that getting rid of a card in your opponent's hand and lowering their initial hand size down to 3 rather than 5, rather than 4, just from Trish. It's not always the best option, but if you know your opponent's playing a lot of cards that they might need, like if you know your opponent's playing a deck that focuses on certain cards, then this could be a good option. Usually I would only play him if I had other things to back him up with, but most people like to go for Calamities because Calamities himself is like a giant floodgate. It's like a better Baguska, and so he is definitely always going to be the preferred option over, Baguska. And he also, mixed with a Shien, he's like real dangerous. So, yeah. Our Link monsters, starting from Link 1s. We don't play any Link 1s, but our Link 2s, my Link 2s are pretty bad. And I'm going to go into the Link 2s from Extreme Force that are coming out. So this is supposed to be Proxy Dragon. I just didn't have a Proxy Dragon on me. And this is going to be that new Link 2 Noble Knight monster that is getting printed real soon. And so pretty much the Noble Knight monster only requires 2 warrior type monsters, and when it's link summoned, you search a warrior type monster from your deck to your hand. And the only condition is you can't use that monster for the rest of the turn. But like being a Link 2 with the exact same arrows as Mrs. Radiant, using any 2 warrior monsters, it just makes it real useful. And this is, it's like Proxy Dragon. Just put that over there. So it definitely works real well for the deck. Mrs. Radiant itself doesn't really do too much, but it's a good Link 2. Another good Link 2 is Akashic Magician, which you can play instead of playing this Top Logic right here, because Top Logic has no real place in this deck, because you don't really want to destroy your whole front row because you have Shien, But for the most part, when you're using Akashic Magician, you can shuffle back or send your own 6 Samurai monsters back to the hand, and then since she's a Link 2, she has a good arrow that points down, which can help you make your Trigate wizard live, or that can help you keep a firewall live as well. So you have options in this deck, but you are really only going to go into these guys if you get Gateway. If you don't get Gateway, you're probably not even going to touch these guys, like these 3 right here, because these rank Link 3, or Link 4, Link 3, and Link 4. You're probably not going to touch these guys because their Link arrows, well, except for his, but he's a Link 4. Their Link arrows aren't really that good. You're really only going to go into Decode Talker or Mrs. Radiant if you have the chance without if you don't have Gateway, these are probably going to be the ones you're going into. If you have Gateway, that's when you can do all the crazy loops with these guys and go wild. So yeah, but I'm pretty sure you guys already know what all these guys do, so I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So, and then lastly, we have one Secret Six Samurai Rihan. Honestly, he's not the best Six Samurai. Actually, he's pretty bad. But if you do have Gateway up, and you do summon him properly the first time, every other time after that, you can just special summon him back using 6 counters from Gateway. Or, you can just summon him if your opponent has a problem monster and you just want to banish something. That's when you can use your Rihan. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's really how I'm playing Six Samurais this year. Tell me what you guys think about this build. Tell me how you guys think I can improve it. I'm just looking for pointers, honestly. I just wanted to show off my deck profile, how it is right now. But ultimately, I'm looking for pointers. So I kind of want you guys to test this stuff out. Tell me how it works. I didn't get too much time to play test it because I've only been back for a short period of time. And I'll have to go back soon. So, keep me updated. Tell me how I can make the build better. And let me know. But ultimately, this was Nistro here. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you're curious what these cards to the side here are, let me just organize that. These cards over here to the side are just, you know, like extra cards. Cognitive Cyclone is something I was initially thinking of putting in, but, you know, I was just saying to myself, you know, no, like, I don't think there's anything I would have to worry about that warrants playing this card. Like, this card would be like maybe a side deck option. I don't think it'll be a main deck option. I don't think anything would warrant playing it in the main deck. Thinking about multiple Hatsume, you can definitely do that. Ancient Fairy, because you're playing Diagram, you can probably manage it. If you play Grandmaster, so, you know, if you feel like playing Grandmaster, you can mush in an Ancient Fairy. Castell is always good. Doji, I never really found a good use for him, but I'm pretty sure he's pretty good. And then I saw some people playing Leo, but I'm not a fan of Leo myself, so yeah. And then Invoker's pretty good if you can pull him out first turn. I feel like he can definitely work well for you, but I don't exactly know how to pull him out first turn. So with this build, it's a bit weird. So if you guys know a way to bring out like to consistently bring out Invoker without relying on like the Predator Plant engine, like that would be great. But you know, you could just play the Predator Plant engine honestly, and then just go for Invoker. That's also something you can do. But yeah, so that's really all for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was Nistro here, showing you guys my true Draco 6 Samurai build for 2018. Peace.